Welcome back everybody to 31 Days of Horror, and today we're on our 22nd day, and today we are looking at 1996's The Frighteners. Now this is a 110-minute long supernatural comedy horror film, directed by Peter Jackson, who obviously went on after this to do Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Hobbit trilogies, King Kong, and before this he did Brain Dead, which is a really rather decent horror film. This stars Michael J. Fox, who was obviously in the Back to the Future trilogy, but he was also in Casualties of War, a really rather good Vietnam War film, The Hard Way, and Class of 1984. Also stars Jeffrey Combs, who was also in the Reanimator films, From Beyond, and the remake of House on Haunted Hill from 1999. And finally, the last probably big name in terms of lead roles is Jake Busey. I think he's a brother of Gary Busey, but either way, was starred in Starship Troopers, Identity, and Enemy of the State. So, the plot premise of this film is about a once an architect, Frank Bannister, played by Michael J. Fox, now passes himself off as an exorcist of evil spirits. To bolster his facade, he claims his special gift is the result of a car accident that killed his wife. But what he does not count on is more people dying in the small town where he lives. As he tries to piece together the supernatural mystery of these killings, he falls in love with the wife of one of the victims and deals with a crazy FBI agent. So, the FBI agent played by Jeffrey Combs, or Combs, I really don't know how to say his name, I do apologise. And this is practically a near perfect mix of horror and comedy, with a sprinkling of action throughout that combines to make a highly entertaining and ultimately engrossing film. This is thanks to the really good cast, a witty script, solid pacing. It's really shot rather nicely, has a good amount of production value, and a plot that balances characterization and thrills really rather well. The only thing that really lets this, the only two things that really let us down are the special effects, which are quite dated nowadays. They're not awful. They're certainly worse from the 90s that you could find out there, but you can definitely tell that this is a high ambition film with a reasonably low budget. It costs 26 million, which, considering what have done or what they wanted to do, is quite low. But you look at something from the 90s like The Haunting, the remake of that film, the film from the 1960s, and that had a budget of like 80 million, and that looks far worse than this. So it's not the worst looking film out there in terms of the 90s special effects, but you can do better. And the score by Danny Elfman is hardly his best effort, but luckily neither really ruin the experience nor take you out of the film. So a really solid film overall. And even though it wasn't a box office hit at the time, it only made a little over 29 million, which isn't hardly enough considering its 26 million budget. It did at least show off that Peter Jackson was able to do a bit more mainstream friendly aspects, because in terms of films, because Brain Dead was really rather quite low budget independent kind of film. Same with his film Bad Taste. Heavenly Creatures, which came out a couple of years before this, wasn't I can't remember if that was high production value on that or high budget, but it was well received and did have a mainstream cast just like this film. But obviously after this he would go on to do Lord of the Rings, and obviously some of this did actually help in terms of the Lord of the Rings films, because Weta Limited, who went on to do the special effects for Lord of the Rings, also did the special effects for this. So who knows, maybe they learned some mistakes from this and perfected their way of making up special effects after this. But it did get a special VHS version from HMV. They did a VHS line with the likes of Beverly Hills Cop, Airplane, Jaws, 48 Hours, Scarface, The Warriors, and The Thing, just being a few other ones. But this is one of my favourites of those bunch. And do highly recommend it. It's probably a good solid film to introduce someone into horror films if they've never really gotten into them before, because there's not much violence. It's only rated a 15. It says it contains moderate bloody violence and language, so moderate isn't really all that bad at all. So it's probably a good gateway film to the horror genre overall, and it certainly was one for me. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.